Welcome to a new Sunday Live. Today we are speaking about your favorite topic, definitely not mine, because the topic of apps is, not my favorite. I can speak about it, but I have a number of bones to pick with French learning apps, and to be honest, apps in general, although they're not all bad. Let's not put them all in the same batch, and let's just speak about apps and see how you can use them. As usual, the worksheet is available on my Telegram channel, so you can download it via the link which is in the description. And I see the chat is already pretty animated. There seems to be a fight between potential teacher heads with Connie, who was here before, and Linda, who is officially falling behind in the teacher's pets race. But since she works with me, I guess we can say it's okay, or maybe not. Tell me what you think in the comment. Should we should we say it's fine, or should we say no? You have to keep racing to be the teacher's pet as well. Also, you're pretty much officially the guinea pig in the French Fluency Accelerator, because I have to admit, in the French Fluency Accelerator we have a new workshop or live class every month, and it has happened a couple of times that we. So Linda is not only always here, but has happened a couple of times that she was the only student on the workshop. So she has been contributing very well. So if you're watching right now and you have not interacted in the chat yet, please say hi. If you are watching the recording, welcome. I know that you are always more numerous to watch the recording than the people who are here live. So the recording is also for you. As I said, the worksheet is on Telegram. If you receive my email, the new worksheet for every Sunday is sent to you on Friday, but you can always get the worksheets after the fact on the Telegram channel from the files section. So without further ado, let's speak about learning French with apps. Oh, wait, I have something to show you, something new that you have never seen before. I made it today. It's called the Ultimate Guide to Learning French with Apps. And the subtitle reads, "New apps appear every day, but the principles of French learning are timeless. Master these key principles and you will make any app work for you." So this is something I wanted to have, or I wanted to make rather, for a good 2 years and a half. And the reason is because, as I said before, apps is your favorite topic. Now, I don't know if it personally, for you personally, it is the favorite thing, like the thing you like the most, but I'm saying it's your favorite topic because according to the statistics of my website, I keep month after month seeing that the article on my blog that receives the more hits every single month by far is an article about the best apps to learn French. So clearly there is a lot of interest for this topic, and it's not even an article that I wrote myself, because like I said, I don't love apps. I have a number of bones to pick with them, which we will, I outline my reasons to pick bones with them in this document, but we're going to speak about it today as well. But I really wanted to make a guide that would help you choose the best apps and create something that is really timeless. So I didn't want to make a list of, today the apps that work the best or whatever. I really wanted to do something to make something that you could use forever and ever. So there are apps quoted in this document, of course, but even if you use this document in the future, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years from now, it will still be true as long as there are apps. And even after, even once we don't have apps anymore, it will still be true because it's based on the SAIS process, which is timeless. It's my 4-step process, which I tell you about almost every time because it works. I mean, it's not my process. It's the process of French learning. It's just that I formalized it. And actually, I have to give a shout out to Linda because she's the one who noticed that it spells the word say, which is like I know in French. So it stands for selection, activation, immersion, and safe practice. I used to call it selecting safe because it sounds like a magic formula before, but indeed it is really cool with the SAIS acronym, the SAY acronym. So you can get this, it's free. I spent my entire Sunday morning polishing it and making it look nice like that. And yeah, because I really wanted you to have a nice guide that you can use forever and ever to evaluate how good an app is, so that you know if you get to, or if you should keep that app or if you should ditch it forever. So I will share some of the content about this. Like I was saying, it's free. It is now part of the French Fluency Starter Kit. So you have the link in the description below. And when you enter your email there, it will be sent to you. So I send you a link to a page, special secret page where you can have this and also another, I think 6 resources or 7 maybe now, because I keep adding stuff. So yeah, like it is, it's 9 pages. It's pretty meaty. So compared to the worksheet, it does contain a lot more content. So I probably won't tell you everything that's in it today. Please download it. It's really nice. It's really worth it. So let's start by asking a question. I see you have 7 people watching right now. So please tell me, do you use apps to learn French? And if so, which apps do you use and do you like them? And I'm really curious because sometimes people comment apps that I've never heard of or that I just heard of, but I never actually tried myself. Like I said, I'm not a big lover of apps, so I'm not trying every single app that exists. But it would be cool to know which ones you use and which ones you think are nice, which ones you trash because they didn't really work for you. Yeah, just tell me what's your experience in the past, in your French learning journey with apps. So anyone, I'm sure some of you are typing and it will take a while to show up. If you don't have the worksheet, grab it from the Telegram channel. By the way, we're almost 150 people on the Telegram channel. I have planned a little special surprise for when we will hit the 150 people mark. So if you're not subscribed to the Telegram channel, please subscribe now. And if you, by the way, it's free. And if you don't know how it works, there is also a tutorial on this channel. So if you type Angel Preto Telegram, you will find the tutorial. So yeah, the app is free, the channel is free, everything is free. You just need to download Telegram if you don't have it. And if you do have it, you just have to join the channel. So I hope that helps. All right, so Linda is saying she uses Boozoo, right? Because it has grammar lessons and you can track your progress. I also use lyrics training, which is fun and helps my listening practice. I will have to check lyrics training because I never heard of it. So you're holding out on me. Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, working like something to practice with listening practice, that sounds useful. So that would be for the immersion step. Connie is saying I used Duolingo before. We went to France the last time. I failed at even pronouncing the English words according to them. Well, not to circle back to the time when I spoke about pronunciation or to the Mastering French Pronunciation course, which is available on my website. But yeah, that's one of the big problems with apps, which coincidentally I didn't mention here because if I started mentioning every single problems that apps have, that would not be 9 pages, that would be 50 pages. But yeah, that's one of the problems of apps, that they don't really, yeah, according to them, you fail at even pronouncing your native language. Like, how ridiculous is that? But anyway, I'm sure I'm gonna rant a lot today. If I rant too much, please let me know, because yeah, many bones to pick. Anand, which I believe is new here, so welcome. Babel, I used, and now I use Google Translator. Oh yeah, Google Translator is something that you can use successfully if you know how to use it. I should actually make a video about that because I've had fun stories happening with Google Translator. Like it can be very valuable, but once I had a student literally use it to translate his homework, just wrote the homework in English, in English, and translated it into French, and then sent it to me and mentioned in the homework, oh, by the way, I used Google Translate to make it, and I think I should tell you. And I was like, ah, that explains why it looks not like a native, but also not like a student. So yeah, but you can use Google Translate very successfully in a language learning journey, particularly to know what a text means. So that's really useful to grasp the meaning of a text, not so much to create a text in a foreign language. It could work, it might not work. It's a bit tricky. Like Google Translate and generally automated translators are just not efficient enough at conveying the meaning, so you could get into some trouble. All right, Steve is here. Welcome, Steve. It's nice to see you back. He says, I use Duolingo and I like it. Good stories for listening exercise. Cool. Yeah, I have to check the stories on Duolingo again because people tell me good stuff about them, and I also have a bone to pick with Duolingo, so I need to see if they can, if I can like them more thanks to the stories. Tony is here. Hi, Tony. I download them, but I never use apart from Duolingo once and UTalk once. I'm not sure I know UTalk. Is that an app to speak to natives? I think that I actually know it. And I use Le Conjugueur once or twice too. So Le Conjugueur can be useful if you want to find the conjugation of a verb and you need to find it fast. If you do have time available, I would always recommend to use this, the Becherel, instead of using a conjugation app or website, because the thing is the app will successfully give you the verb, but the conjugation that you need, no problem, but it will not teach you how to conjugate. So you will have to keep using it forever and ever. While this will actually teach you what is the verb patterns and which verbs look like each other. So that will actually serve as a teaching resource. It takes a little bit longer to look up the verb in this book, but it's really worth it if you have time. I mean, time, maybe it takes 2 minutes or 1 minute if you know how to use it fast. It takes me roughly 1 minute when I use it. Cynthia is here. Hi, Cynthia. Lina is saying lyrics training uses French pop song and you can play 2 ways. Karaoke is one, the other, they run the lyrics simultaneously with blanks and you have to choose the right word you hear. Oh, that's cool. That sounds really nice. I mean, it sounds really playful and gamified, and that sounds like fun. Which app I would like to suggest? It depends on what you want to do with it. And yeah, we're gonna speak about that in a minute, because there is not one app that will teach you French and that is the one thing that you'll use and that's it. It would be fun to create one. If someone is a software developer who wants to spend the next 2 years creating an app with me that actually does the whole thing, like the whole 4 steps of the process, I'm game. Like, I'm game for being the expert, like language learning expert, authority person in some startup who would want to create the actual good app that does everything. But to my knowledge, there is no app that does everything. Each app will only address 1 or 2 of these steps, but not all 4. And you need all 4 of them to learn French successfully. Nina is saying Duolingo also does a podcast that is both in English and French, which I like. Oh yeah, I heard about that. That sounds interesting. Cynthia is saying can't get off the phone. Is it because you are using French learning apps? Or is it because you're in a phone call right now? Tony is saying UTalk provided vocabulary in French, but I knew almost all of them. Oh, it's a vocabulary app. I have to check it out. I'm not sure what that is. Reverso Context is good for seeing how a word is used. Yep, that's a good app. I like to use Linge for that. I use Linge all day in my client sessions because sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what word I should be teaching the client in that context because I cannot know everything and I make a curriculum for each client separately. So I do use Linge a lot, and also to correct homework, because sometimes people write stuff in their homework and I'm like, oh, I know that's not correct, but I don't know what they mean. And Linge is very helpful to provide to me what it could be that they're talking about. So yeah, those are good apps. But as you can see, basically all these apps, they are like a piece of the puzzle in your French learning journey. There is not, like, if you download an app, Duolingo or Italki or any app, and you think, okay, that's like the one thing I need, this is wrong. You need more than one tool. Like I said, if some software developer is up for creating the one app that contains everything, but it would be a nightmare to code because it would be so many different functionalities to cover all 4 steps of the process. Linge seems too Canadian to me. I see it on computer. I never noticed that it was particularly Canadian, but it is true that between French and English, it uses a lot of Canadian references, but that is only because it's the only country that has French and English as their two official languages. So of course, between French and English, you will have a lot of Canadian examples, but it doesn't really matter. Like, I've never noticed that those examples would not be usable in a French context. So yeah, it's not a problem. So let's look at this process and what you can fill in the blanks in the worksheet. So first, I was being asked what are the best apps. The best apps are those that help you reach your goals, okay? So it's always going to be a personal choice. Yeah, like, I wish I could tell you, okay, use this app, it's the best, but I can't really, it depends on what you want to be doing. So the best apps are those that help you reach your goal. So you need to use only apps that serve you. And that's really the key. Like if you were to remember only one thing from this session today, it would be to use only the apps that are useful to you. And this is true of everything, not just apps. If a teacher is not being helpful for you, if helpful to you, or if you, when you are listening to me, you're like, oh, I'm not learning anything, don't use it. Like your time is precious. Use your time for things that are actually adding value to your life, that are actually helping. So this is true for apps as well, and for everything that you do. And so to know which apps to use and when and in which proportion, we can use the SAIS process, which is outlined in this document and which I tell you about all the time. It's just the 4-step process. I have a video which is how to learn French in 4 steps. I think it's how to learn French for beginners in 4 steps or something like that. It outlines this process in more details. So that's really important. And I haven't found any app that deals with all 4. And worse than that, I haven't actually found an app that deals with the first step. All right, let's see. There's more. Before I get into that, there's more comments. Lina is saying I used to use Drops, which is a flashcard app. Never heard of it. I should check it out. It was good in the beginning to learn basics, but there's no way to make a flashcard. You can only select categories to learn. Yeah, that actually is spot on the topic that I was going to elaborate on. So the first part of the 4-step process, the S is for selection. And it is really absolutely critical to select only the things that you need to learn. So Tim Ferriss, who is the author of The 4 Hours Work Week, a very famous book, not about French or not about language learning, but few people know that he actually also applied this method to language learning, and specifically he used it to learn Japanese as a monolingual English speaker. So it's kind of hard. I'm not sure you realize, but learning Japanese as an English speaker, as an adult, is a lot harder than learning French. But he did it because the first thing that he did was to select the most important words to learn first. He actually found, like, the story is interesting because he found a poster that had I think the 100 most common Japanese words, or most, no, I don't think it was most common. I think it was most useful. And he decided to learn just the content of those 100. So he didn't decide to get a book or an app that was gonna make a selection for him. He was like, okay, no, I'm gonna use this poster because it's the most common Japanese words. It worked for him. Sometimes the most common are not the most useful for you, but if you're a beginner and you don't really have a particular goal for French, like if it's not, for example, for your job, and you don't have a particular profession that you need to use French in, it's okay to start with the most frequent words. If you do have a particular goal to learn French and you are in a time crunch, you're in a hurry, and you have a particular use case, for example, it's for your job and you have a specific job, you're a lawyer or a doctor or a diplomat, for example. I mean, I work a lot with these kind of people. That's the kind of situation where you don't want an app, you want a French coach, because it's my job to create the right curriculum for each one of my clients. Now, not everyone can afford to have one-on-one coaching. Also, if everyone wants to work with me, I won't have enough spots because I only have 7 spots in total. So I only have about 2 that are available right now. That's not what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. I should have gotten it at the beginning, but I was totally unprepared because I worked all day like a crazy person, mostly making this. So if you are in a time crunch and it's really important and you just really need to learn French fast, don't get an app, contact me, I'm happy to help you. Now, if you're more leisurely about it and it's more like a hobby, or you do have French goals for the future, but you're not having to do it really, really fast, the best thing you can do for selection, unless you want to buy one of my courses where I explain how to do it more specifically, is to start with this. It's the Fluency Worksheet. It comes in the French Fluency Starter Kit, which is free, alongside this new one and another few documents which I have shown earlier. And this allows you to step-by-step select the things that are important to you and make a list. And then you can use it to track your study. So it's really helpful. I do not understand why no app includes a process like that, or why no app exists to have a process like that. Because if I could put it on 2 pages, it would not be too hard to put it in an app and to make it user-friendly. But I'm not an app developer, so unless someone wants to do it with me, it's this is the best resource you have for step one, unfortunately. If you do find an app, like if it turns out that I'm wrong, and some apps actually help you select the things you want to learn, send me an email or write a comment. Like, if you're thinking right now, oh my God, he's wrong, he doesn't know this or that app, write a comment below this video, even if it's in the future, because if one app does that, I want to know it. Because honestly, the lack of this first step is the reason why most apps fail, or most apps are giving partial results at best. Because basically, this is the first step. So they hit the first hurdle, and then the rest of the race is slow and painful. So step one, selection. If no app is doing it for you or with you, you have to do it yourself, or you have to hire a coach to do it for you, or join a course so that you can do it. You can use the Fluency Worksheet, that's a good start, or you can use the French Life Launchpad, which is my little course that explains the 3-part method that I use. So basically creating your own curriculum is the first step of that method, and then you have another 2, which are creating a routine and choosing the resources that you use to learn. That's the French Life Launchpad, and that's also included in the French Fluency Accelerator, which I tell you about every single week, because it's my group program and I love it, and all the students are so amazing and so super supportive. And we make new content every month. And when I say we, it's because the students help me make it. The students help me make it. The next live class actually is next Saturday. So if you want to join the French Fluency Accelerator, it's a good idea to join now. And if you join right now, I would send you the exercise per email. Like basically anyone who joins between now and say Friday, I will send the exercise per email. And then you can do it, because it's a live class. It's about a song which is called Fesnos de Panam. Yes, it's French, Ghana, and it's a really cool song, and I really look forward to the next live class. So yeah, if you want to join, now is a great time to join, and then you'll be able to join the next live class. It's on Saturday at the same time, so exactly 24 hours before our next YouTube live. So at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. So yeah, that was the French Fluency Accelerator news. All of that to say, this step is sorely missing from most apps, and that's just sad. But let's move on to the next step. So the A is for activation. So activation means that once you have selected things, for example, if you select with this, you only have a list of things that you want to do in French, so a list of tasks. But then you need to activate the actual content. So that means the words that you need, the grammar that you need, and even the structures, or just how you do that. So for example, if one of your tasks is to ask for a coffee because you want to be able to go to a cafe in France and get a coffee there, you have to know how to be polite. Hopefully you want to be polite to the waiter, even though they are not famous for being polite in Paris, but you want to be polite with them, so you have to know that. You have to know how to say something like je voudrais and stuff like that. And in order to learn it, you must first activate it. Now, you do have some apps, actually, I would say most apps will somehow provide some type of activation. So all the apps that you have quoted could be used for activation, except the ones that are for podcasts and songs. Those, I would say, are purely immersion. But things like Buzu or Duolingo, they will offer decent activation. The only thing is that it's just not the best activation, because, like I said, the selection part is sorely missing. So they will activate stuff for you, but if they activate the wrong ones, not like anything is wrong. Like you can always make the case that whatever you learn is always good, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, there's probably roughly 10% of the French language which is relevant to you. And there are lots of things that you don't need and therefore don't want to learn, because you will waste a lot of time with it. So because the selection is missing, the activation is kind of wonky. But any app that contains grammar or vocabulary will do some sort of activation. Activation is important because that's what helps immersion to work. So immersion on its own could probably work, because when you think about it, it's how you learned your native language when you were a baby. So babies, they don't download an app or read books or whatever to learn their native language. They just somehow listen to the people around them and they just grab it from there. The problem, it takes them a good 7, 8 years to master it. And maybe you don't want to spend 7, 8 years full-time learning French. So it's good to have the first 2 steps, because that will shortcut your way, right? So those 2 help make immersion work a lot faster. Now, the reason why it works is because when you activate, It's called activating because of the reticular activation system. So you will find people referencing it as RAS. One book that I can recommend, which speaks about it quite well, is this book, Everything is Figureoutable by Mary Folio. Again, not about language learning, but the principle that I recommend here are principles of how the brain works. So human psychology, it works this way. It works for language learning. It works for other things as well. So this is an app that has a book. This is a book that has an entire chapter about the reticular activation system and how it works. It's basically a system of your brain that will scan your environment to retrieve anything that you have activated before. This is the reason why sometimes, for example, if you want a particular car, you decide you want a blue Mercedes, which is not so common. But if you decide you want a blue Mercedes, next thing you know, you will start seeing blue Mercedes everywhere, like in the videos you watch, there's in series around you, everywhere. And you're like, wait, those cars were not here before. Why are they everywhere now? No, they were here before. You just never noticed because you never activated the concept of a blue Mercedes. And the same is true for so-called elements of languages. So vocabulary words, conjugations, structures, all of this. So it is really useful to have selection, first to decide what you want to learn, activation, then you activate the specific elements of languages that you need to be able to do these things. And then you immerse yourself with your daily French bath. It took me 26 minutes to say daily French bath today. By the way, this is our ritual. If you've never heard about the daily French bath, please let me know so I can officially welcome you to the channel, because I speak about the daily French bath in every single live session and almost every single video, because it is so important. It's one of the 4 steps. So first select, then activate little by little. You don't want to activate everything at the same time, right? It's better, like your brain can only learn so much at the same time. But once it's activated, your brain will automatically retrieve this information from your immersion, and you will learn this way. You will automatically learn deeper every time someone uses it. But if it's not activated, it will take you a long time for your brain to sort it out because you have not told it what to look for. So I hope this makes sense. Please let me know so far if you have any questions before we speak about the last part, which is probably the one that I have the most bones to pick with. All right, so Tony is saying some babies do now, given tablets to play with and learn vocabulary. Whoa, that's I have to catch up. I don't have a baby of my own. I never had one, but when I do, I'm just. Is it a good idea to give a tablet to a baby? Like, I know that even people like Steve Jobs would not want to give tablets, did not want to give tablets to their kids because they thought it was not good for them. And, you know, they should know because they were the ones making it, or like he should know because he was the one making it. So yeah, like, interesting. I have no input on this topic, but thank you for sharing it. It's an interesting fact. Tony is also saying, usually the blue Mercedes appears everywhere after you've bought it. Well, if you buy it, you will have it mightily activated because, yeah, you're like, oh, it would be original to have a blue Mercedes. I never saw one before. So you buy one, you think you're going to have the only one on the road, and then they're everywhere. Don't worry. It's still exceptional for other people. Other people are not looking for them. So you will still impress yourselves. You will still impress your friends with your blue Mercedes. If they have never seen one. After you have impressed them with yours, they will start seeing the other ones everywhere. So yeah, that's how it works, the reticular activation system. Cynthia is saying she loves to immerse by watching the selection of French movies and TV series on Netflix. Yep, this is one of the things I mentioned in this document. YouTube, Netflix, like there are some apps, like for example, Fluent2. I'm surprised that no one has quoted Fluent2 so far. I don't know if it's still fashionable, but it's an app that has the premise is to teach you how to learn French with actual TV shows. And I saw another app who does that recently, but I didn't write down the name, so I forgot what they're called. But yeah, you don't actually need an app for that. Well, app. You could say that YouTube is an app if you're watching me on your smartphone right now. It's an app. So YouTube will be one, Netflix will be one, and any podcast app that you have. For example, I use Apple Podcasts. I listen to podcasts in French and English indifferently on my Apple Podcast. I have my subscriptions, and whenever there's a new one, whether it's in French or in English, I always get notifications for that. And you can do that for any number of languages. Sometimes it's challenging to actually find the podcast. That's the reason why I like to share some podcasts on Telegram. So if you are on my Telegram channel, I can show you quickly. I can show you quickly where you find them. So you have to go to the channel. I'm just opening it. You have to go to the channel, and when you click on my face in the top right corner, you get this. Oh, I don't want to share it. You get this page, and then if you scroll up, you will have media files, like you have those tabs. And if you go to links, you will get all the links that I have ever shared. So there is the links to all of these live classes, but there are also links to podcasts and the kind of YouTube documentaries that I watch, or videos that I watch, or songs that I recommend. So if you want resources for immersion, you can get them for free directly from this tab, or you can scroll up on the channel if you want to look at everything I have published, but like this will be the shortcut to all the links. And similarly, you have the shortcut to all the files here, and that's where you can see all the worksheets that I have made for these live classes. So hope that makes sense. Tony is saying vocab app not for the internet. I'm not actually sure what you mean with that. I don't know if that's a question or a comment. Can you please elaborate? Connie is saying my grandkids have tablets to play with to learn a lot of things. That's fun. How old are your grandkids? I actually didn't even know that you had grandkids. It's cool. Congrats on being a grandma. Yeah, when I was a kid, or like when my siblings were kids, we had like those educative computers, which were not like real computers, but it makes sense that kids would have tablets nowadays. So yeah. And only saying Netflix with the smiley like that. You can use Netflix. You can find French series on Netflix. I know that Lupin is one that's being very famous and being very appreciated. Like my students like it a lot. Another one is called Call My Agent, or 10% in French. You can watch that. I wouldn't recommend Emily in Paris. For one thing, it's not in English, and for a second thing, it's not really about Paris. But if you like it, you can still watch it. It just won't teach you French. So yeah, you can use Netflix, definitely. And you will find articles. I didn't publish one because I'm not a big series person, but lots of people have published articles with the best French series to watch on Netflix. So you can easily find that on the internet. Connie is saying 4 and 3. Wow, they're really young. That's really interesting that they can use tablets at that age, and that it does not seem to be a problem for them. Because I mean, of course, they technically can use it, but I would wonder how good it works with their brain because it's 2-dimensional. I have to look that up. Maybe my knowledge about that is outdated. So yeah, thank you. Tony is saying the app provides pictures with spoken word, typically American accents. So that's going to be the apps for children, right? Yeah, that makes sense. All right, thanks for the precision. Cynthia is saying thanks for the link info. I never saw them. Happy to help. Yeah, that is the reason why I made the Telegram tutorial on this channel, because I know that it's not an app that most people in the English-speaking realm know, probably because the app was created by 2 Russian guys, and the app is not technically Russian itself. It's not based in Russia, because actually Russia as a country decided that they didn't want to have it because it was too secretive for them. Like the whole purpose of Telegram is that people can share encrypted messages. That was the whole reason. And then they created the possibility to make channels where one person can share information with a lot of people, which is what I do. So that's how we end up being almost 150 people, 149 as of today, according to the app. So yep, almost there. I look forward to having this number so I can share my little surprise with you. So yes, that was the comment interruption before we pick the biggest bone about the last step. So the last step is safe practice. And safe practice is so the 4th step, right? Selection, activation, immersion, and safe practice. Now, why is it called safe practice and not just practice? Well, first, why practice? So the thing is, if you complete those first 3 steps, selection, activation, immersion, and not this one, the last one, you will probably become able rapidly to understand French, which is a great step. I mean, many learners struggle to understand French, especially spoken French by natives who speak fast. If you do those 3 steps, you won't have a problem with that. But if you don't do the last step, you will not be able to speak. And there are plenty of people who are able to just understand a foreign language. For example, it's not rare among French speakers to be able to understand pretty much everything in English, but not be able to speak it, just because they only consume English content. I know several people who, when they try to speak English, it's a disaster. Their pronunciation is awful. No one would ever understand them, but they understand everything because they listen to so many podcasts and so many so many videos, and they read books even in English, so they can understand it, but they can't speak it. It's because they have the last part missing. Now, it might not matter. Some people do not want to speak a foreign language. They just want to have access to the kind of content that's published in it. So it depends on you. What are your personal goals? Again, I mean, selection, right? When you list your tasks here, maybe you have no tasks that involve speaking. Maybe it's just understand a movie, understand a podcast about gardening, or understand a professional conference, for example, because you're in a profession that has a lot of experts in French, or that has conferences in France or in French-speaking countries, or say you live in Quebec and you do work in English with your colleagues, but when you now that's a bad example actually, because if you live in Quebec, you would have to speak. Scratch that. You could have an entire list of tasks, none of which involve speaking. But in my experience, French learners, when they come in touch with me, it's because they actually want to speak. They want to go to France and be able to rent a bike, be able to go to a restaurant, and be able to just experience the country without staying in the place where the tourists go because they can't speak French themselves. I mean, it's a bit sad. It's a bit sad when you can only go to a country and see what has been shown and prepared for the tourists, and you can only go to the restaurant that have a menu in English, or you can only point and you're not yet quite sure what you're going to get because you can't ask a question. No, like most of the time, and again, if you don't want to do that, it's fine. Like everybody has their own goal. That's why the step 1 is so important. But if it's important to you to speak, then you need the last step, the practice step. Okay, so if you don't practice speaking, you will not be able to speak. Like, I know it sounds really like common sense, but that's just how it works. And I called it safe practice, not just practice, because the thing is, the reason why, in my experience, most learners, or many learners, so many learners don't speak, it's because they're afraid of speaking. And that, honestly, I get it. It's legit scary. And something happens in your brain when you're about to speak a foreign language for the first time. Like, your brain goes into panic mode and you tend to fight, flight, or freeze, mostly freeze. I know a lot of people who have said that it's like being like a deer in the headlights. So that if you have the freeze effect. And the reason is because, yes, our brain is made to learn the languages around us, but our brain is not made to run to another group of humans and try to have them adopt you. That's not something we would do as an adult in the old times. Because if imagine like some prehistorical tribes, groups of humans that have their own culture, and they're like, typically it's one family. If someone comes from outside, best case scenario, they won't let you in. Worst case scenario, they will kill you. It's legit scary. Our brain is not made to use that. So how you want to get to doing this is you want to master the context. So it's not just running to some random groups of humans or some random humans and try to speak to them, not knowing who they are and how they will react. You want to be in a case of safe practice. So you want to, not forever, but when you start, you want to be in a container, in a situation where you know that the person you're talking with is absolutely supportive and will hold a safe space for you to try and maybe fail at communicating, and just will not judge you or otherwise punish you for what you don't know how to do yet. So does this make sense? If you have any question about this, please ask. I know this is a rather uncommon idea that I've not really heard in many other places. It's mostly, I think, part of quote unquote my method, but honestly, it's legit common sense. Like, if you feel safe, you will be much more likely to do the things than if you feel unsafe. Most of the time when you're not doing something, even if you want to do it, it's because your brain goes like, nope, that's not safe, so I'm not gonna do it. So it is critical to master the context here. And unfortunately, the apps that offer to put you in touch with natives or teachers do a terrible job of providing this space, or they haven't even thought about it. So there are some apps that have a huge amounts of natives or of teachers who are available, like italki or HelloTalk or like Preply. There are lots of platforms to do that. But the thing is, whether the person will be super nice and super adorable and supportive or will be a complete ass is completely random. And sorry, I didn't mean to swear. I hope you don't have kids around. But yeah, like, these apps do a terrible job of vetting people. most of the time they have no vetting process at all. So it's going to be your job to vet them and to check if the person is able, like first competent and able to teach you, and two, will be actually supportive and will be patient with you, because it takes some patience. Like my students always tell me, oh, you're so patient. Now I don't really notice it right now because I'm trained, because I know how important it is to provide the right space. So it's the headspace that I'm in. I don't feel like I have to be patient. That's my job. I do it. But I do have students who are like, whoa, I've never found a teacher who is as patient as you. And I think it's a problem. That's a situation where I have a really big bone to pick with, with apparently most teachers in the world who are just not patient with their students. Now, I'm not blaming them. I'm sure they have their reasons to have the personality that they have, or whatever. But it is a problem. You need to have a teacher who is holding the right space so that you can practice with them. A teacher, a coach, a language partner, whoever you're practicing with. So that's why it's important to first practice in a safe space. And then when you are really practiced, you can go out in a space that's less controlled, and then use the French skills that you have learned in the safe space. So I hope this makes sense. Please tell me if that makes sense to you. Tell me if you are learning something, if I have shared new things here today, especially if you've been here for a long time. I love to know that I've been able to share new stuff and to find new things to share with you and new insights every week. So please give me some feedback. And as usual, I actually should have said it at the beginning, but we always keep some time, or I try to always keep some time at the end of those sessions. I always go live for 1 hour. I try to keep some time for you to ask any question that you have. And just type any questions you have in, and I will answer them right now, whether it's about apps or about learning French in general, or about what I've eaten today, or anything that you would like to know. Yeah, I think I should read through the worksheet, because I haven't actually said what to write. So activation, once the useful content is selected, you need to activate it to start learning it. You can use apps that teach you grammar and vocabulary, such as Duolingo or Boozoo. Apps, I don't even know. I don't even know what's in there, and I didn't write it down. Apps. Oh, I think flashcard apps to learn your vocabulary, such as Anki or Quizlet. You need to use your own decks, right? You need to, I know it's a bit annoying to not be able to use a pre-made deck or a deck that was made by another person. I mean, nothing is stopping you from doing it, but you have to remember that selection, step one, selection is really important. So it's better that you make your own deck if you're using a flashcard app. So you want to avoid pre-made decks. Then immersion, some apps like FluentU specialize in helping learners learn through immersion with real-life material, but you can simply use free apps like YouTube, podcast apps, and Netflix. And finally, safe practice, some apps like italki or Preply or HelloTalk help you meet natives and teachers, but these apps often have many users. Like, that's normal. Like, the goal of an app is to have as many users as possible. And if you want to have as many users as possible, you need to not select them very much. So they do a rather poor job of vetting them. So that's why you can have excellent encounters. You can meet amazing people on these apps, and you can also have very distasteful encounters. Unfortunately, I have had lots of students, especially women, young women, not young and less young women, who have reported to me that they have met absolutely disrespectful people on language learning apps, which is, it sucks. But I think it's the thing, especially if you're a woman, it's something that you need to be aware of. One more important consideration, I haven't spoken about this. I will speak about it afterwards when I've taken a few comments. Please remind me that I need to speak about gamification in case I forget, because it's important. All right, so Connie is saying how I say it in my head and what comes out of my mouth are two different things. Yep, that happens to everybody. I am sure it's also my case when I speak, although sometimes it's reversed. Sometimes I feel like I speak absolutely horribly and I come out as fine, but most of the time I think something amazing, especially in German. I think something amazing, and what comes out of my mouth is like, well, not at all what I was thinking. So yeah, that can happen. It's one more reasons to have a safe space to practice, and that's the entire reason why one of my mottos, one of the things that are most important to me in my coaching practice is to provide the space for my students, and also why in the French Fluency Accelerator I insist always so much that the students are so supportive of each other, just because, yeah, it makes the difference between not being able to speak at all because your brain goes into freeze mode and goes like, nope, I'm not going to do it. Or sometimes, or it's honestly the difference between speaking and not speaking, like point blank. You might be in a situation where you can't speak at all, or in a situation where you can speak. And yeah, maybe at the beginning, what you have in your head and what comes out of your mouth is not the same at all, but it's fine. Like, it's part of the process. And as you practice more and more in your safe space, you will be more and more able to make sentences that make sense and have the thing that comes out of your mouth look more or less like what you have in your head. So yeah, it's critical. Anand is saying, yes, I am doing it, Netflix, but it's not for the beginners. So the thing with Netflix is that you really have you have like step 0 and then 3 steps that you can use if you're like, depending on the part you are in the process. So say you're watching a French series on Netflix. Option number 1 is just take the dubbed version that's dubbed into English, assuming there's one, and listen to it in English, and that's it. I don't actually know if there are many French series that are dubbed in English, because I know that people in the US don't dub so much. But yeah, that would be like option 1, is just watch something in English, and yeah, maybe you learn about the culture a little bit, but you won't learn anything about the language. Step 2 is you have the series or the movie in French, and you get English subtitles. Now, this is amazing because you can do it even as a beginner. And it's totally fine. It's not cheating. I know I have lots of people who think it's cheating. I also have lots of people who think that immersion is useless if you don't understand what's being said. But the thing is, you have to have immersion before you understand it. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation, but really, it's the chicken, okay? Immersion comes first, and then you understand. You have to be comfortable with having some French in the background and not understanding it. So same story, having your French sound and your English subtitle, it counts. It might not be as fancy as having one of the next 2 steps, but it counts, okay? So that's step 1 of learning French. French sound, English subtitles, you will understand everything, and it will start teaching you some French. Step 2 of the learning French with Netflix, you have the sound in French and also the subtitles in French. Now, you do need to be somewhat intermediate to be able to read the subtitles fast enough and understand them. But it's a good challenge to give to yourself. Like, one day you'll be like, okay, now I think I know more French and I can have the subtitles in French. And finally, the ultimate step is when you turn the subtitles off. No subtitles, just the French sound. Now, there is some point to be made that if you have the French subtitles on, it will actually teach you how to write at the same time, which can be really useful, especially if you're a visual person. But you can also turn them off and just enjoy the French with subtitles and be like, I'm a French speaker now, I need no subtitles. So yeah, you can use Netflix as a beginner, you just will need the English subtitles. It's fine, it works, it's not cheating. So Cynthia is saying, fear even once stopped me from assisting French tourists in the shop with a question they had, and I understood what they were asking. That happens a lot. I mean, it sometimes happens to me, not so much anymore because I've been living in German-speaking countries for 10 years. But sometimes I'm like, wait, what? Can you repeat? I understood what you said, but please repeat it anyway, so I can just like put my thing in my head at that moment. It happens. So yeah, embarrassed I said something wrong or sound dumb. To be honest, everyone has said wrong things and sounded dumb. I'm a 6 languages polyglot. I have said wrong things and sounded dumb, possibly more times than any French learner ever will in their life. Now, it's not a competition. I'm not trying to accumulate the number of wrong or stupid things I said. For the record, if you've never heard that story, once I sent an email to 400 people as part of this business. It just was a couple of years ago. I sent an email that was actually speaking about immersion already back then, because yeah, like it's the language learning process. It doesn't really change. Back then, I didn't have it formalized, but immersion was already really important. And I said in my email, I love to Netflix and chill. I just didn't know what that meant. I thought I knew. I mean, watch Netflix and chill, right? It says what it means to say. And then I got a reply of a person who was like, I don't think it means what you think it means. Like watching Netflix and chill means having casual sex while having Netflix in the background. I was like, what? Like, they have an expression for that. Like, first, who would do that? Like, you wouldn't want to focus on what you're doing. You would want to have Netflix in the background. I mean, I don't, if you need to catch up on your French bath or something, but Yeah. So anyway, I said that to 400 people as part of my professional career. You can see that I'm still alive. It was just very embarrassing, but now I tell the story as an example of how I made a fool of myself and I didn't kill my business or myself in the process. Like most of the times, even if you do something really embarrassing, yeah, it will be just embarrassing. Now, it can happen that you do something that's genuinely dangerous, but it's extremely rare. And most of the time, it's not even really a language problem. It's just that the situation is dangerous in the first place. And maybe you make it worse with the language. It can happen that you are in a situation that's dangerous. And if you have great language skills, you can come out of it safely. That does happen, especially if you're a diplomat that's working in a war zone. Sometimes I work with people who do this kind of job. They can be in really dangerous situations, and it's good for them to have great French skills. But you'll admit it's not the situation of most French learners. Most of us, most of you, most of everyone will just be embarrassed once in a while. And yeah, like you have to become a professional at embarrassing yourself and just keep working or keep doing it, because that's just how you become a language learner, or that's how you become a speaker of a foreign language. No way out. Sorry, I wish I could give you a tip to never embarrass yourself. That would make a great marketing ploy. Hey, learn French and never embarrass yourself, but it's not possible. Like, it's going to be part of the journey. That's just how it is. So Linda is saying, I did that with 10%. I watched it a few times with French sound, English subs, and then I watched it again with French sound, French subs. Yep, that's how you do it. Cynthia is saying, oh no, French, thanks for sharing. Happy to share. Like, I'm honestly very happy to share the situation where I have just made a fool of myself, even sometimes with hundreds of people. It happens. And I know no one who died from it. And I don't even know any business who who had to just close it down for it. Like, lots of people embarrass themselves all the time. They're fine after a while. Okay, last thing I want to speak about before maybe a couple more questions. Gamification. So have you ever heard of gamification? Actually, tell me if the word gamification tells you something, if it makes sense to you. I'm going to spell it, gamification. Tell me yes or no, depending on whether you've heard this word. It's something I've heard of a lot, but that's because I actually used to work for an app, for a startup that made an app. It's not something I share very often because it's not a language learning story. But before I had this business, I was the head of customer support in an app. It's called Clue. It's a period tracking app. And interestingly, we tried to use gamification within a period tracking app. You can be like, okay, again, yeah. So Tony's saying yes, Linda is saying yes. So I guess you mostly know what gamification is. If you've never heard of it, it basically means making something into a game. Cynthia is saying no. Okay, thanks for sharing. So yeah, if it's new to you, gamification, to gamify something, it means making that thing into a game. So introducing some elements of gameplay or play or fun into a thing that's not normally about playing. People who make apps use that a lot, like a lot. There are books about it. One book that I had to read, compulsory reading for my last job, was called Hooked by Noor Eyal. It's something I speak about in the French Life Launchpad and also the French Accelerator in one of the workshops. So maybe you've heard about the book. And that's one of the main reasons why I have a bone to pick with apps, because I know very well what they are doing. I used to work for one. And so the app that I worked for is a period tracker. It is made to track your menstrual cycle if you have one. You would not think of that as something playful. It's just kind of something you have to do for your health. But nonetheless, it didn't stop us co-workers to have sort of a 2 days, we call that the hackathon. It's like a marathon, but about coding and tech stuff. We spent 2 days in small groups thinking of how we could find ways to make that app more gamified so that we could hopefully get the users hooked and addicted to their period tracker. If that sounds ridiculous, it's because it is. Like, seriously, like, each time I think about that, I was like, wait, what? What were we thinking? Literally, it's what people think about when they develop apps. It's like, okay, how can I make my users come back, if possible, every day? What can I do to get them hooked? It's the title of the book that we used, that everybody has read in this industry. How can I hack their brain? How can I make them come back without even knowing? And at that time, when we had that hackathon, our master example, the app that had succeeded, the app that had made it was Duolingo, because almost everybody had Duolingo on their phone, even if they had no interest in language learning. One day they had downloaded Duolingo and they had had some fun with it. I don't think it's fundamentally wrong if you can find a way to get yourself addicted to the thing that you have to do and to learn on autopilot without even noticing. Do it. More power to you. It's amazing. I mean, I tell everybody to use the daily French bath and to watch the things that they would love to watch in English so that they can just enjoy and have fun while they do their French. The more fun you have, the better. The problem with gamification, and especially in apps, is that it's your best friend, but it's also your worst enemy, because it could make you pursue some goals other than yours. I mean, the goal of an app clearly is to have their users keep coming back. Your goal is to speak French. Two different things. Speaking French is not the same as using an app, not at all. So you want to only use the app if it supports you, if you see that you actually make some progress. And I don't think it's natural to use the same app for month and month and month or years and years, because you have to grow out of the tools that you use. You have to get to the next level, use the next thing. It's natural to use a thing for a certain amount of time and then grow out of it and use the next one, unless that thing can grow with you. For example, I've been coaching some people. Among my students, I have some people who stay sometimes for more than a year with me. It's not really the intended goal. The goal would be of the coaching would be to, do it for a few months and then have the person reach their goals. I do have some students who, after a number of months, they're like, oh yes, this is what I wanted to do originally, but now that I have evolved, I want to learn more. And that's fine. Like, if the thing grows with you, keep it. But some apps just won't grow with you. They just find a way to make you keep going. Be careful with that. You want to make sure that you understand what the app is doing, what the app wants you to do, and you have to make sure that it is aligned with what you want to do. So again, the best thing and the worst thing at the same time. So yep. Tony is saying, I'm almost addicted to Outspell. Is Outspell an app? I'm not sure what they do, but there are games, like actual games. Fortnite is very famous for that. Fortnite is famous for having gotten their users completely addicted to it. Some apps can do that very successfully. Linda is saying, like Duolingo's Golden Tree and Streak. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, you want your tree to stay golden and you don't want to lose your streak. If you have had 82 days, you don't want to lose it. Like, that happened to me once. I lost a streak that was like 80 days long. I was mad. But yeah, and then that's when I gave up on Duolingo, actually, because like, oh no, my streak is gone. I'm just not gonna bother now because it was 80 days. I'll never have that back. Yep, that happens. All right, so we have another 3 minutes. So please share anything you'd like to share with me and with the other students that are here. And if you have any questions, please type it now so I can answer them before I go. And else, I will of course be back next week. So you can always bring your questions next week. But if you have one now, just use it. If you have been watching the recording until this point, thank you for being here. I love you. You're amazing. Please leave a comment so that I know that you came. And let's see, we have a couple more comments. So when Tony is saying, AH, Scrabble or other games online like MSN Outspell. Can't find any good French word games online except mots croisés. Oh, a word game like Scrabble. That sounds fun. Actually, I should download that and check it out. I try not to download game apps because when I do, I get addicted to them and I waste a lot of time on them. But that sounds fun. I should look at it. Look at it. Any good French? I mean, there has to be a Scrabble app in French. I cannot imagine that the French Scrabble organization hasn't made an app for it. If I find some, I'll bring them to you. That will be something interesting. So Cynthia is saying merci. Merci to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being live with me. Yeah, it's 8 p.m. So unless you have another quick question, I will just start to slowly say goodbye. Thank you for being here. If you you can get all the worksheets for also all the past sessions on Telegram, even if you weren't here before. If you are on my email list, if you receive my email every week, I want to reach a point where we send an email every day. That's my goal. I want to send some really good French stuff per email every day and just really valuable content. So watch for that. But Linda and I, we will send you an email probably Tuesday, or I'm not sure, sometime this week with this new thing here. It's 9 pages. It's honestly really cool. I love how it looks and how it turned out. I did work 5 hours this morning on it because I'm a nerd and have nothing else to do on Sundays. I mean, it's a work day for me anyway. I normally work with clients, but today I didn't have many clients, so I used the time to do that. Really happy I took the time to make it. Not to brag, but it's a really good thing. It's free, so it will be sent to you per email if you're already on the list. If you're not on the list yet, you want to sign up for the French Fluency Starter Kit at the link below, and you will be automatically signed up for my email, and then you'll be able to download all of the gifts, including this one, and the one about vocabulary that I've been showing before, Vocabulary Magic, how to learn vocabulary. Those are all free. You can all get them in the French Fluency Starter Kit, along with another few nice stuff like a free meditation, and of course you will be invited every Sunday to these live classes. I look forward to seeing you again next Sunday. Thank you for being here with me. And thank you everyone for participating. It was amazing to have your feedback and your information about the apps. And I look forward to seeing you next Sunday. Have a good week. Bye.